My parents defended my brother after he stole my wife, so I cut them off forever. I used to believe that family was the one place in the world where you could always go back. No matter how hard life became, no matter how badly the world treated you, family was supposed to be the shelter, the safe place. The people who would tell you the truth even when it hurt and stand beside you when everyone else walked away. That was what my parents taught me growing up. Blood comes first, my father used to say. My mother would nod and add, "You never turn your back on family." I believed them. For 36 years I believed them. And then my brother stole my wife. And when I finally stood in front of my parents, broken, humiliated, and barely able to breathe, expecting them to be horrified by what he had done, they looked me in the eyes and defended him. Not me. Him. My older brother. The golden son. The one who always got forgiven before he even apologized. That was the day I learned a painful truth. Sometimes, the family you spend your life protecting is the same family that will destroy you without losing a night of sleep. My name is Daniel Mercer. I grew up in a small town outside of Columbus, Ohio, in the kind of neighborhood where everyone knew which car belonged in which driveway, and whose kid was failing math before report cards even came home. My parents, Robert and Elaine Mercer, were respected people. Dad worked as a regional sales manager for an agricultural equipment company. Mom was a school secretary for almost 25 years. They were not rich, but they had built a clean, comfortable life and they were proud of it. I had one brother, Andrew. Andrew was 3 years older than me. From the moment we were kids, people treated him like he was born to win. He was taller, louder, more confident. He played baseball, dated pretty girls, and always knew exactly what to say to make adults laugh. Teachers loved him. Coaches trusted him. My parents adored him. I was different, quiet, careful, observant. I was the kid who got good grades, helped clean up after dinner, and never asked for much because I had learned early that the spotlight was already taken. Andrew did not just receive attention, he consumed it. If I got an A, he had hit a home run. If I got a scholarship, he had made the varsity team captain. If I was sick, he had a bigger game coming up. My parents did not hate me. I want to be clear about that. They fed me, clothed me, came to my graduation, and told people I was the responsible one. But Andrew was the son they admired. I was the son they relied on. There is a difference. When Andrew crashed Dad's truck at 17 after sneaking out, my parents called it a mistake. When I backed into the mailbox 6 months later, Dad made me pay for the repair and lectured me for 2 weeks about responsibility. When Andrew dropped out of community college, Mom said he was finding himself. When I changed my major from engineering to business, Dad said I needed to stop being indecisive. That was our family. Andrew got excuses. I got expectations. Still, I loved him. That is the strange thing about growing up in a dysfunctional family. You can see the unfairness, feel it in your bones, even resent it, but still love the people hurting you because they are all you know. Andrew could be cruel, but he could also be charming. He would insult me in front of his friends, then later toss me a baseball glove and say, "Come on, little man, do not be sensitive." And I would go. Because I wanted my brother to like me. Even when we became adults, that pattern never fully disappeared. Andrew became a real estate agent. Of course he did. He had the smile for it. The handshake. The confidence to walk into a room and make people believe he knew more than he did. I became a financial analyst for a logistics company. It was not glamorous, but I was good at it. I worked long hours, saved money, avoided debt, and built a stable life. Then I met Claire Henderson. She was a graphic designer with soft brown hair, green eyes, and a laugh that made people turn around in restaurants. We met at a charity 5K event through a mutual friend. I hated running, but my coworker had begged me to join the company team and I agreed because saying no had never been my strongest skill. Claire was volunteering at the registration table. I remember dropping my race bib twice because I was nervous. She smiled and said, "First race?" I said, "Is it that obvious?" She looked at my brand new shoes and said, painfully. That was the first time she made me laugh. 3 months later we were dating. 1 year later, I proposed. 2 years later we were married. For a while I thought I had finally built the life I had always wanted. Claire and I bought a small house in Westerville with a white kitchen, a fenced backyard, and a maple tree that turned bright red every October. We talked about kids. We argued about paint colors. We took weekend trips to Nashville and Chicago. We hosted Thanksgiving twice, and even my parents seemed impressed. Andrew was my best man at the wedding. That sentence still feels like swallowing glass. He stood beside me in a navy suit, lifted his glass at the reception, and gave a toast that made everyone laugh. He said, "Daniel has always been the dependable one. If he says he will be there, he will be there. Claire, you picked the kind of man every family hopes their daughter brings home." Everyone clapped. Claire kissed me. My mother cried. And Andrew hugged me so tightly that for one stupid moment I thought maybe we were finally brothers in the way I had always wanted us to be. Looking back, I wonder when it started. Was it at our wedding? Was he already looking at her then? Or did it happen slowly, one inappropriate comment at a time, one private joke, one long glance across a dinner table, one text message that should never have been sent? I do not know. That is one of the cruelest parts of betrayal. You can discover the ending, but you spend years torturing yourself over the beginning. At first there were small things. Claire laughed harder at Andrew's jokes than she did at mine. Andrew started coming over more often, usually when I was working late. He said he was in the neighborhood. Claire would say, "Your brother stopped by to help fix the garage shelf," or "Andrew came over to drop off those papers for your dad." I did not think much of it. Why would I? He was my brother. She was my wife. Trust is not stupid when you give it to people who are supposed to deserve it. Then Claire started changing. She became distant, not in an obvious way at first, but in the subtle ways a husband notices before he has the words to explain it. She stopped reaching for my hand in the car. She stopped asking about my day. She began taking her phone everywhere, even to the bathroom. When I walked into a room, she would sometimes turn her screen face down. I asked her once if everything was okay. She smiled too quickly and said, "I am just tired." I wanted to believe her. That was another mistake. Around that same time, Andrew started treating me differently, more arrogant than usual, almost amused by me. At family dinners, he would make little comments. "Daniel, you still working those late nights? Man, do not let life pass you by." Or, "Claire, I do not know how you deal with this guy. He probably schedules romance on a spreadsheet." Everyone laughed. Even Claire. I laughed too because that was what I had always done. I swallowed embarrassment to keep the peace. But deep down, something was shifting. One Friday night in March, I came home early from work. I was supposed to stay late for a quarterly financial review, but the meeting got canceled because our director had a family emergency. I thought it would be a nice surprise. I stopped by a bakery Claire liked and bought a lemon cake. I imagined us ordering Thai food, opening a bottle of wine, and maybe reconnecting after months of distance. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed a black SUV parked 2 houses down, Andrew's SUV. At first I thought maybe he was visiting our neighbor. It was ridiculous, but your mind will reach for any explanation that protects you from the truth. I carried the cake to the front door. It was unlocked. Inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Claire's purse was on the entry table. Her shoes were near the stairs. Then I heard laughter. A woman's laugh. Claire's laugh. It came from upstairs. My body knew before my mind did. I placed the cake on the hallway table, and I remember noticing that my hands were shaking. I walked toward the stairs slowly, as if moving quietly could somehow undo what was happening. Halfway up, I heard Andrew's voice. Low. Familiar. Casual. Then Claire said something I could not make out, and they both laughed again. I reached our bedroom door. It was partly open. I pushed it. There are images that stay burned into your memory forever, not because you want them there, but because pain has a way of carving itself into your mind. My wife was in our bed. With my brother. For several seconds nobody moved. Claire gasped and pulled the sheet to her chest. Andrew sat up, eyes wide at first, then almost immediately annoyed, as if I had interrupted him rather than caught him destroying my life. I could not speak. The room smelled like Claire's perfume and my brother's cologne. That detail haunted me for months. Claire started crying. "Daniel, please." I looked at Andrew. He said, "Listen man, this is not how we wanted you to find out. How we wanted me to find out. Not, I am sorry. Not, I betrayed you. Not, I destroyed my brother's marriage. Just irritation that the timing had been inconvenient." Something inside me went cold. I turned around and walked downstairs. Claire followed me, wrapped in a robe, crying harder now. "Daniel, wait. Please, please let me explain." I picked up the lemon cake from the hallway table. For some reason I looked down at it and almost laughed. I had brought dessert to surprise my wife while she was upstairs with my brother. There are moments in life so humiliating they become almost surreal. I walked into the kitchen, set the cake on the counter, and leaned both hands against the sink. Claire stood behind me. "It just happened," she sobbed. I turned around. "How long?" She looked away. I asked again, quieter. "How long, Claire?" She whispered. 6 months. 6 months. For 6 months my wife and my brother had been lying to my face. 6 months of family dinners. 6 months of holidays. 6 months of Andrew joking with me across the table, while sleeping with my wife behind my back. I nodded slowly. Then Andrew came downstairs wearing his jeans and buttoning his shirt like he was leaving a hotel room. He said, "Daniel, I know this looks bad." I stared at him. He continued, "But you and Claire have not been happy for a long time. You know that." That was the first time I spoke. "You do not get to tell me what I know." Andrew raised his hands like I was being unreasonable. "I am just saying this did not come out of nowhere." Claire cried. "I never meant to hurt you." I looked at her and said, "Then why did you?" She had no answer. I grabbed my keys. Claire stepped in front of me. "Where are you going?" I said, "Away from both of you." Then I left. I drove for almost 2 hours with no destination. I remember passing gas stations, dark fields, strip malls, red lights. I remember gripping the steering wheel so tightly my hands hurt. At some point I pulled into the parking lot of a closed pharmacy and screamed until my throat burned. Then my phone started ringing. Claire. Andrew. Claire again. My mother. That one made me pause. I knew Claire must have called her. Part of me wanted to answer. Part of me still believed my mother would comfort me. That she would be horrified. That she would say, "Come home, Daniel, we are with you. What they did was wrong." I answered, "Mom." She sounded tense but not heartbroken. "Daniel, where are you?" I closed my eyes. I left the house. Claire called me. "She is hysterical." I almost laughed. "She is hysterical?" "Daniel, I know you are upset." Upset. That was the word she chose. I said I found my wife in bed with Andrew. There was silence. Then she sighed. Not gasped. Not cried. Sighed. "Your brother told us there were feelings involved." For a moment I thought I had misheard her. "What?" "He said he and Claire did not plan for this to happen. These things are complicated." I sat in that parking lot staring at the dark windshield. "Mom, he slept with my wife." "I know. And that was wrong. But you need to calm down. Before you do something you regret." "Something I regret." "Not Andrew. Me." I said, "Where is Dad?" "He is here. We think everyone should come over tomorrow and talk like adults." I felt my chest tighten. "Talk like adults?" "Yes. Your father and I do not want this family destroyed over one terrible mistake." I whispered. 6 months is not one mistake." She paused. Then she said the sentence that ended something inside me. "Daniel, you have always been stronger than Andrew. He makes poor choices but you know his heart." I hung up. The next day I went to my parents' house because a foolish part of me still needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to know whether my mother had just been shocked on the phone, or whether my parents were truly about to defend the man who had stolen my wife. When I arrived, Andrew's SUV was already there. Of course it was. Claire's car was there too. My stomach turned. Inside, they were all sitting in the living room like it was a family meeting about holiday plans. Dad in his recliner. Mom on the sofa. Claire beside her eyes red holding tissues. Andrew leaning against the fireplace with his arms crossed. The image was so absurd that I almost turned around and walked out immediately. Mom stood. "Daniel, thank God. Sit down." I remained standing. Dad cleared his throat. "Son, this is a painful situation." I looked at him. "A painful situation?" He nodded. "But we need to handle it carefully." Andrew said, "Daniel, I am sorry you found out like that." I laughed once. "Sorry I found out like that. Not sorry you did it." His jaw tightened. "I am trying to apologize." "No, you are trying to manage consequences." Claire sobbed softly. Mom said, "Daniel, please do not be cruel." I turned to her. "Cruel?" She looked uncomfortable but continued. "Claire made a mistake. Andrew made a mistake. But people make mistakes when they are unhappy." I stared at my mother, the woman who had taught me right from wrong, who had made me apologize for breaking a neighbor's window when I was 9, who had once grounded me for lying about a homework assignment. Now she was calling a 6-month affair a mistake. I said, "You knew." Nobody answered. The silence was loud. I looked from my mother to my father to Andrew. "You knew?" Dad rubbed his forehead. "Andrew came to us a few weeks ago." "A few weeks?" My parents had known for weeks that my brother was sleeping with my wife and nobody told me. I felt the room tilt. Mom said quickly, "We told him it had to stop." Andrew muttered, "I tried." I said, "You tried?" Claire whispered. "We were going to tell you." "When?" No one answered. I nodded slowly. "You were all going to sit me down and explain that my marriage was over once you figured out how to make Andrew look less disgusting." Dad stood. "That is enough." I looked at him. "No, Dad. It is not enough. Not even close." His face hardened. "Your brother is still your brother. And Claire is still my wife." Mom said, "Maybe not anymore, Daniel. Maybe that is what you need to accept." That sentence hit me harder than finding them together. Because it told me everything. In my parents' minds, Claire had already become Andrew's. Not because she was right. Not because I deserved it. But because Andrew wanted her. And in our family, Andrew wanting something had always mattered more than me losing it. I turned to Claire. "Is that what you want?" She cried harder but nodded. "I am sorry." I looked at Andrew. He did not look sorry. He looked victorious. I said, "Then take her." Claire looked up startled. Andrew blinked. I continued, "Take her. Take whatever you think you won. But understand this. You did not just steal my wife. You ended your relationship with me." Mom stood quickly. "Daniel, do not say things you cannot take back." I looked at her. "I am not taking it back." Dad said, "You are emotional." "No. I am awake." Mom's eyes filled with tears now, but not for me. I could tell. She was crying because the family image was cracking. I said, "You knew for weeks. You protected him. You let me sit at your table while everyone knew my wife was cheating with my brother." Dad said we were trying to avoid a disaster. I said no. "You were trying to avoid Andrew being held accountable." Andrew scoffed. "Oh, come on, Daniel. Do not act like your marriage was perfect." Claire was lonely. Something in me snapped. I stepped toward him and Dad immediately moved between us. Andrew smirked because he knew Dad would protect him. He had always known. I stopped, looked at them all and said, "I hope this was worth it." Then I left. That evening I booked a hotel room. The next morning I called a divorce attorney. By Monday, I had opened a separate bank account, redirected my paycheck, and started gathering financial records. For the first time in my life, I did not ask my parents for advice. I did not tell Andrew what I was doing. I did not comfort Claire. I moved like a man underwater, slow but focused. Claire sent me dozens of messages. I never wanted this to happen. I still care about you. Please do not hate me. Can we talk? I ignored most of them. Then she sent one that said, Andrew and I did not mean to fall in love. That was when I blocked her number. My attorney, a sharp woman named Marissa Cole, told me to stay calm, document everything, and avoid emotional confrontations. You have the advantage right now, she said. Do not give it away by reacting. So I did not. Claire wanted the house. That almost made me laugh. She claimed she needed stability because she had nowhere to go. Apparently Andrew stealing my wife did not include providing her a place to live. Marissa shut that down quickly. The house had been purchased mostly with my savings before marriage, and I had kept clean records. Claire could fight, but it would cost her. Then Andrew called me from a number I did not recognize. I answered without thinking. You are being vindictive, he said. No greeting. Just accusation. I almost admired the confidence. I said, you slept with my wife in my bed. She is leaving you. The house does not need to become a war. The house is mine. You do not need it. I laughed. And you do? He lowered his voice. Claire is under a lot of stress. Good. You are punishing her because she chose me. I said, no. I am protecting what I built because she betrayed me. Andrew said, you always do this. That caught me off guard. Do what? Act morally superior. Like you. Are better than everyone. I thought about all the years I had swallowed my pain, cleaned up his messes, stayed quiet while he was praised, helped him move apartments, lent him money, covered for him. I said, no, Andrew. I just finally stopped acting like I am less. Then I hung up and blocked that number too. The divorce took 8 months. 8 ugly, exhausting months. Claire cried in mediation. She said I was being cold. She said I had changed. She said the Daniel she married would never treat her like a stranger. I told her the Daniel she married trusted her. That man no longer existed. My parents tried to intervene constantly. Mom sent emails because I had blocked her number. The first email said, Daniel, we love you. Please do not let anger destroy our family. I did not respond. The second said, your brother is struggling. He misses you. I deleted it. The third said, Claire feels terrible. You are making this harder than it needs to be. That one I printed and gave to my attorney just in case. Dad showed up at my office once. Security called me from the lobby. I went downstairs because I still had enough respect not to humiliate him publicly. He looked older than I remembered. Daniel, he said, this has gone too far. I said, you need to leave. He frowned. I came to talk sense into you. You should have talked sense into Andrew before he slept with my wife. Dad's jaw clenched. He is your brother. I leaned closer. Then. He should have remembered that first. Dad looked around the lobby embarrassed. You are really willing to lose your family over this? I said, no, Dad. I already lost my family. I am just accepting it. For a second, something like guilt passed across his face. Then it disappeared. You will regret this one day. I nodded. Maybe. But I will not regret respecting myself. After the divorce was finalized, Claire got a modest settlement and left the house with Andrew. I kept the home, though I sold it 2 months later because every room still felt contaminated. I moved to Denver for a job opportunity with a larger logistics firm. I told no one in my family, not my parents, not Andrew, not Claire. I changed my number. I deleted social media. I created a new email address. I left Ohio with 2 suitcases, a laptop, and the kind of silence that feels like both grief and freedom. The first year in Denver was brutal. People love to talk about cutting off toxic family like it is some empowering movie scene where you drive away and instantly become happy. It is not like that. It is lonely. It is sitting in a new apartment on Thanksgiving eating frozen lasagna because you have nowhere to go. It is waking up from dreams where your mother apologizes, then realizing she never did. It is hearing a joke your brother would have liked and feeling sad before remembering what he did. It is walking past a woman wearing your ex-wife's perfume and needing to step outside because your body still remembers betrayal before your mind can stop it. But slowly the loneliness became peace. I started therapy. At first I hated it. I did not want to sit in a room and tell a stranger that my family chose my brother after he stole my wife. It sounded pathetic every time I said it. But my therapist, Dr. Hall, never made me feel pathetic. She said, you were not abandoned because you lacked value. You were abandoned because your family had a system and your pain threatened that system. That sentence changed my life. My pain threatened the system. In my family, Andrew was protected, my parents were respected, and I was useful. When I stopped being useful, they treated me like the problem. Once I understood that, I stopped trying to earn apologies from people who benefited from never giving them. I built a new life. I worked hard, got promoted, made friends. Real friends. People who did not need me to shrink so they could feel comfortable. I joined a hiking group even though I had never been outdoorsy. I learned to cook. I bought a condo with mountain views. I adopted a rescue dog named Cooper, a golden retriever mix with one floppy ear and terrible manners. For the first time my life belonged to me. 3 years passed. Then 5. Then 7. During that time my parents sent occasional letters to my old address, which my attorney's office forwarded until I told them to stop. I never opened most of them. I heard small updates through a cousin named Melissa, the only relative who respected my boundaries. She never pushed, never guilted me, never said, "But they are your family." One evening she called and said, "I heard something. I do not know if you want to know." I was sitting on my balcony watching snow fall over the parking lot. I said, "Tell me." She hesitated. "Andrew and Claire got married." I stared at the snow. I expected pain. Instead I felt almost nothing. "When?" "Last weekend." I nodded. "Good for them." Melissa exhaled. "Are you okay?" I thought about it. "Yes," I said. "I think I actually am. But life has a strange way of testing healing." 2 years after that call, almost 9 years after I left Ohio, I received a message on LinkedIn. It was from Andrew. I almost deleted it without reading. Then I saw the first line. "Daniel, I know I have no right to ask you for anything." That was new. Andrew had always believed he had the right to ask for everything. I opened it. The message was long. He said Dad had suffered a stroke. Mom was overwhelmed. Medical bills were stacking up. Andrew's real estate business had collapsed after a bad investment. Claire was working part-time but they were drowning. They needed help. Then came the line I expected. "Whatever happened between us, we are still brothers." I laughed out loud. Cooper lifted his head from the rug. I read the message again slowly. There was no real apology. There was regret, but only because life had become hard. There was nostalgia, but only because he needed access to the dependable brother he had betrayed. I closed the app and went for a walk. For 3 days I did not respond. Then Mom emailed me. I do not know how she found my work email, but she did. Subject line: "Your father needs you." I stared at it for a long time before opening. She wrote that Dad's stroke had affected his left side. He was in rehab. Insurance covered some things but not enough. Andrew was doing his best, but the family was under pressure. Then she wrote, "Daniel, I know things were difficult in the past, but this is your father. Please come home. We need you." Difficult in the past. That was how she described it. Not betrayal. Not abandonment. Not, "We defended your brother after he stole your wife." Just difficult. I replied with one sentence. "I am sorry to hear about Dad, but I am not available." She responded within an hour. "How can you be so cold?" I stared at that line and felt the old version of myself stir. The version trained to explain, to soothe, to prove I was not cruel, but I was not that man anymore. So I did not respond. A week later, Melissa called. "I am sorry," she said. "Your mom is telling people you abandoned them." I smiled sadly. "That sounds familiar." Melissa sighed. "There is more." I waited. Claire left Andrew. For a moment I said nothing. She left? Apparently things got bad after his business failed. They were fighting constantly. She moved in with a friend. I looked out my office window at the Denver skyline. Years earlier, Andrew had told me Claire chose him like he had won a prize. Now the prize had walked away. I should have felt satisfied. Maybe part of me did. But mostly I felt tired. Betrayal had cost me years of grief. Watching it collapse did not give those years back. 2 months later, Andrew called from another unknown number. This time, I let it go to voicemail. His voice sounded different, less arrogant, more desperate. "Daniel, please call me back. I messed up. I know I messed up. Dad keeps asking for you. Mom will not admit it, but she needs help. I need help. I lost the house. Claire is gone. I know you hate me, but please, you are my brother." I listened once. Then I deleted it. That night, I could not sleep. Not because I felt guilty. Because I was angry that even after everything, some small wounded part of me still wished he had said those words 9 years earlier. I messed up. I know I messed up. If he had said it then, truly said it, would things have been different? Maybe. Maybe not. But he did not say it when I was broken. He said it when he was. That distinction mattered. A few weeks later I received a handwritten letter from my father. His handwriting was shaky. It said, "Daniel, I do not know if this will reach you. I have had time to think. I was wrong. Your mother and I failed you. I thought keeping the family together mattered more than taking your side. I see now that by protecting Andrew we lost you. I am sorry." I read that letter at my kitchen table 3 times. Then I cried. Not the dramatic kind of crying people write about in novels. Quiet tears. The kind that come when something you buried starts moving again. For almost a decade I had imagined my father apologizing. Now he had. And it did not fix me. That was the hardest part. An apology can validate pain, but it cannot erase it. I wanted to feel relief. Instead I felt grief for the father I wished he had been before he got sick. I took the letter to therapy. Dr. Hall asked, "Do you want to respond?" I said, I do not know. She said, you can forgive someone and still not give them access to you. That became my anchor. I wrote Dad a letter back. I did not tell him where I lived. I did not include my phone number. I wrote, Dad, I received your letter. Thank you for acknowledging what happened. I needed those words years ago. I am sorry about your health. I hope you recover as much as possible. But I cannot return to the family system that hurt me. I have built a peaceful life and I will protect it. I wish you well. I mailed it through my attorney's office. Mom responded 2 weeks later with fury. How dare you hurt your father like this after he apologized? There it was. Even my father's apology became another tool to make me responsible. I did not respond. Then Claire contacted me. Of all people, she emailed my professional address with the subject line, I owe you an apology. I almost deleted it, but curiosity won. Her email was long, emotional, and full of regret. She said Andrew had made her feel seen when our marriage was struggling. She said she convinced herself our relationship was already over, because that made the betrayal easier to live with. She said marrying Andrew had been a mistake built on guilt and stubbornness. She said she had spent years realizing that a relationship born from betrayal never really escapes betrayal. Then she wrote, you were a good husband, Daniel. You did not deserve what I did. I am sorry. I sat with that for a while. Then I wrote back, thank you for saying that. I hope you heal. Please do not contact me again. And that was it. No long speech. No revenge. No emotional reunion. Closure is not always a door slamming. Sometimes closure is a quiet sentence you send before returning to your own life. A month later, Andrew sent another message. This one was angry. So Claire gets a response but I do not? You really think you are better than me? I blocked him again. That was Andrew. Even ruined, even desperate, he still believed my boundaries were insults. The final confrontation happened almost 10 years after the day I found them together. I was in Columbus for a business conference. I had avoided Ohio for years, but my company needed me there for a logistics partnership meeting. I stayed downtown far from my old neighborhood. I told no one. But somehow Andrew found out. Maybe through LinkedIn. And maybe through an old acquaintance. Maybe because people in Ohio still talked. On the second evening after dinner with clients, I walked into the hotel lobby and saw him standing near the elevators. Andrew. Older. Heavier. Tired. His hairline had receded. His suit looked cheap and slightly wrinkled. But his eyes were the same. For a second we just stared at each other. Then he walked toward me. Daniel. I said nothing. He stopped a few feet away. You look good. I nodded. You should not be here. He swallowed. I needed to see you. No, you wanted to corner me. His face tightened. I have tried reaching out. I know. And you ignored me. Yes. He laughed bitterly. Must feel good. I looked at him carefully. No. It does not. That seemed to surprise him. He looked down. Dad is worse. I am sorry. He asks about you. I said nothing. Andrew's voice cracked slightly. Mom is falling apart. I am trying to handle everything but I cannot. I lost Claire. I lost the business. I lost the house. I waited. He looked at me with wet eyes. I lost my brother too. For one moment I saw him as a boy again. The brother I had chased through the backyard. The one I had wanted approval from. The one who taught me to throw a curveball and then laughed when it hit the fence. And I felt sadness. Real sadness. But sadness is not the same as permission. Andrew said, I am sorry. I looked at him. He continued, for Claire. For what I did. For letting Mom and Dad defend me. For all of it. I asked, are you sorry because you hurt me? Or because your life fell apart? He flinched. I deserve that. Yes, I said. You do. He wiped his face quickly, embarrassed. I was jealous of you. That caught me off guard. He laughed without humor. I know that sounds insane. Everyone thought I had everything. But you were steady. People trusted you. You did not need attention the way I did. Claire respected you even when she complained about you. I wanted that. I wanted to prove I could take something from you. My stomach turned. There it was. Not romance. Not destiny. Not complicated feelings. He wanted to take something from me. I said, you did not take something. You destroyed a marriage. You destroyed a family. He nodded. I know. No, I said. You know now because it cost you something. He had no answer. Andrew stepped closer. Can we ever fix this? I looked around the lobby. Business travelers moved past us with rolling suitcases. A woman laughed near the bar. The world continued indifferent to the most painful conversation of my life. I said, no. His face broke. Daniel. No. I repeated. I can accept your apology. I can believe that maybe you finally understand some of what you did, but I will never be your brother again. He looked like I had slapped him. I continued. Being my brother was not a title you got to keep after betraying me. It was a relationship. You broke it. Tears ran down his face now. I do not know how to live with that. I said, I had to learn how to live with what you did. You can learn how to live with the consequences. He covered his mouth and looked away. For a moment I almost reached out. Old Daniel would have. Old Daniel would have comforted him. Old Daniel would have made his pain smaller. But I kept my hands at my sides. Finally, Andrew whispered, "Can you at least come see Dad?" I thought about my father's shaky letter. I thought about the years of silence before it. I thought about my peaceful condo, my dog, my friends, the life I had built from the wreckage they left me in. I already said goodbye to the father I had, I told him. The man who wrote that letter has my forgiveness. But he does not get my life back. Andrew nodded slowly, crying quietly. I walked past him to the elevator. He did not follow. When the doors closed, I finally let myself breathe. I flew back to Denver the next morning. 3 months later, Melissa called to tell me Dad had passed away. I sat down when she said it. Even when you are estranged, death has weight. I did not go to the funeral. Some people will judge me for that. They will say I should have gone because he was my father. They will say life is short. They will say forgiveness means showing up. I understand why they think that. But they did not stand in my parents' living room while my family defended the brother who had been sleeping with my wife. They did not rebuild a life from ashes. They did not spend years learning that peace sometimes requires distance from the people who share your blood. I sent flowers anonymously. White lilies. No message. A year after Dad died, Mom wrote me one last email. It was shorter than usual. Daniel. I am alone now. Andrew barely comes around. I think about you every day. I wish I had protected you. I wish I had been your mother when you needed me. I am sorry. I read it on a Sunday morning while Cooper slept beside my chair. For a long time I stared at the screen. Then I replied. I hope you find peace. I have found mine. That was all. I did not block her after that, but she never wrote again. Sometimes people ask whether cutting off my family was worth it. That question misunderstands what happened. I did not cut them off to punish them. I cut them off because staying connected meant continuing to bleed. There is a difference. Punishment is about making someone suffer. Boundaries are about refusing to keep suffering for someone else's comfort. For years my family told me who I was. The responsible one. The strong one. The forgiving one. The one who would eventually calm down, come back and carry everyone else's guilt so they would not have to face it. But I am not that man anymore. I am not a supporting character in Andrew's redemption story. I am not a backup plan for parents who remembered my value only when the golden sun failed them. I am not a husband waiting for an apology from a woman who confused attention with love. I am Daniel Mercer. I built a life after betrayal. I learned that love without respect is just control dressed up as family. I learned that forgiveness does not require reunion. And I learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from the table where you were never truly given a seat. My brother stole my wife. My parents defended him, so I cut them off forever, and for the first time in my life I finally chose myself.